A case of mistaken identity leads Eleanor's shells drop into paradise, but her secret could still get her thrown into hell. Eleanor wakes up and sees a sign that assures her that everything is fine. A man named Michael invites her into his office and bluntly reveals that she's dead. The woman calmly wonders how she died, so Michael explains that they erased the memory of their deaths to allow a peaceful transition. Still, he recounts that while picking up a margarita mix in a parking lot, a line of shopping carts swept her into the street. There, a billboard truck advertising men's supplements ran Eleanor over. Moving on from her embarrassing death story, she asks who was right about the afterlife. Michael confirms that every religion got it 5% correctly, but the one who got the closest was a man named Doug Forsett, who predicted the afterlife with 92% accuracy while he was high. He explains that heaven and hell aren't real. Instead, there's a good place and a bad place, and Eleanor is in the good place. With that, Michael gives her a tour of the idyllic neighborhood. He explains that the good place is divided into distinct neighborhoods with residents carefully selected to blend in harmony. The woman then joins the other residents for Michael's orientation video. He explains how every human action made since birth is scored for its negative or positive effect on the universe. Upon their deaths, their effects on the universe are measured, and those who score high go to the good place. There, they are paired with their true soulmates to share eternal happiness with. Later, Eleanor asks who's in the bad place, so Michael notes that every artist and US president is there except for Lincoln. She's surprised that many amazing people ended up there, but Michael assures her that their system is incredibly selective. He adds that she's here because she's a lawyer who saved innocent people from death row. With that, he presents her new home that's supposed to reflect her essence. Therefore, her cottage is quaint, whereas the one next door is a literal mansion. Inside, the house is decorated with paintings of clowns, which she supposedly loves. He then shows her the video system where Eleanor can watch her life, like when she fought for human rights in Ukraine. A man then arrives and introduces himself as Chidi Anagonye, her soulmate. After Michael leaves, Eleanor suddenly asks if Chidi will stand by her side no matter what. When he says yes, she reveals that she's not a lawyer, hates clowns, and is not supposed to be there. They got her name right, but everything else is wrong. Later, Chidi ponders if this is a test for her to confess and earn her place. Eleanor refuses to risk going into the bad place, but Chidi insists on getting further information. He calls Janet, who appears out of nowhere. Chidi explains that Janet is their walking database who knows everything. Hearing this, Eleanor asks about a guy who refused to date her. When Janet confirms that he didn't like her, Eleanor pretends that she wasn't into him, but the other woman knows she's lying. Chidi asks what the bad place is like, so Janet plays them an audio clip of what's happening there. They hear tortured screams, therefore Eleanor concludes that the bad place isn't awesome. As Eleanor plots to keep her secret, Chidi refuses to lie as he was a professor of ethics and moral philosophy. He then starts to get a stomachache, stressing that he's having one while in paradise. Michael then finds them and introduces them to Tahani and Jianyu, their next-door neighbors. Tahani compliments Eleanor's house, noting that it's sweet and teensy like her. She then explains that her soulmate, Jianyu, is a Buddhist monk who obeys a strict code of silence. That evening, Eleanor and Chidi attend Tahani's welcome party, and the woman immediately complains about how small her house is compared to Tahani's. Desperate, Chidi asks if she did one good thing on Earth, but Eleanor struggles to recall one. She defends that at least she wasn't a murderer and insists that the others couldn't be better than her. To prove this, she talks to the other residents, only to discover that everyone else saved lives at least. Michael then introduces himself as the architect of this neighborhood, which is the first one he designed. As he speaks, Eleanor hoards the shrimp cocktails and drinks. When Tahani makes her speech, Eleanor whispers to Chidi that the woman is a condescending giraffe. Later, they go home, and Eleanor drunkenly climbs onto the bed, dropping shrimps that she snuck into her dress. Tired, Chidi walks away, so Eleanor suddenly apologizes for her behavior, lamenting how people on Earth might not care that she's dead since she was awful. The next day, Eleanor wakes up to flying shrimps and giraffes invading the good place, while the residents wear yellow striped clothes. She runs outside and meets with Chidi, who notices that she's the only one wearing regular clothes. He concludes that this is happening because of her. They rush to her house, where Eleanor insists that this isn't her fault. Chidi points out that she hogged the shrimp cocktail and now shrimps are flying around. She called Tahani a giraffe, so now giraffes are running everywhere. Coming up with an idea, Eleanor suggests that Chidi can teach her how to be good since he was a professor of ethics. The chaos only happened after she was mean at the party, so perhaps making her good will let her stay. Suddenly, Michael announces an emergency meeting. Knowing that her normal clothes will make her suspicious, Eleanor calls Janet to ask for clothes like everyone else's. With that, they join the meeting, where Michael panics as he doesn't know what's happening. Thankfully, Tahani's dress returns to normal, assuring everyone that the chaos is ending. Later, Chidi is still undecided about helping Eleanor as she might be taking someone else's spot. Eleanor defends that they got her name right, so they probably just mistook her quality level. Chidi asks what she knows about him but proves that she hasn't cared enough to remember anything, calling her the most self-obsessed person he's ever met. Hearing this, Eleanor remembers when she went to a bar with her coworkers. They drew names from a hat to choose their designated driver, though her coworker, Betsy, questioned why Eleanor never got picked. When she tried to check the paper Eleanor drew, the woman ate them all to avoid getting caught. At the good place, Michael offers everyone a chance to fly. However, Tahani points out that their neighborhood was destroyed, so she asks for volunteers to clean up. Eleanor judges the volunteers for giving up flying, so Chidi volunteers them both to let her prove that she's not selfish. While many residents enjoy soaring into the sky, Eleanor picks up garbage. Meanwhile, Michael approaches Tahani, who compliments him for building the neighborhood. However, he's still panicking about the earlier chaos. Elsewhere, Eleanor points out to Chidi that she's helping out, so he should help her earn her place there. However, Chidi is unconvinced since her motivations are corrupt. One night at the bar, her coworkers decided on a rotating system to assign their designated driver. This night was Eleanor's turn, but she went to the bar earlier and was already drunk, forcing them to choose someone else. At the good place, Tahani struggles to cheer up Michael as he laments how he ruined his first neighborhood. Suddenly, he sees a dog on the road, which he thinks is a glitch since he doesn't recognize it. Michael kicks the dog into the sky, but the owner suddenly arrives. Meanwhile, Eleanor hears that there are only 5 minutes left for the flying activity, so she quickly dumps trash to catch up. Before she can fly, however, it starts raining trash. Elsewhere, Michael recreates the dog and returns it to the owner, assuring everyone that it's only a construct that doesn't feel pain or love. The owner, however, gets horrified that her dog doesn't love her. Before Michael can correct himself, the garbage storm reaches them. Eleanor reunites with Chidi and lies that it started raining trash for no reason. When lightning strikes near her, she confesses that she ditched her duties to go flying. Because of this, Chidi decides not to help her. At Tahani's mansion, she begs her soulmate to help encourage Michael, so Jianyu places his palm on the architect's chest. Suddenly, a wave of clarity fills him, so Michael leaves, feeling inspired. Impressed, Tahani wonders if she'll gain wisdom by staying silent. She tries it out for 5 seconds, then returns to her peppy self. As Eleanor struggles to sleep, she remembers another night when she was forced to be the designated driver. A bartender complimented her for doing the right thing, so she flirted with him. In the end, Eleanor decided to go home with the bartender. Betsy warned that if she bailed, she'd be banned from their nights out forever. However, Eleanor didn't care, so she left. Filled with guilt, Eleanor starts cleaning up the streets. Chidi finds her, and the woman claims that she's cleaning so the trash can't be traced back to her. Still, he concludes that she's doing it out of guilt, which is a start, so he decides to help her. The next day, Michael thanks Eleanor for cleaning up the neighborhood. Using this opportunity, she asks if she can fly, but Michael has banned flying since it caused too many injuries. Later, Chidi moves into Eleanor's home to teach her how to be good. He notes that they'll have years' worth of lessons, making Eleanor question why she's doing this. He reminds her that this is to get out of eternal damnation, so she accepts. While Eleanor's alone, someone slips a note under her door that accuses her of not belonging there. She checks outside, but no one's around, making her nervous. The next day, Chidi notices that Eleanor isn't paying attention to his lesson, stressing that she's ignoring the person saving her from eternal damnation. Pretending to have listened, Eleanor questions who died and left Aristotle in charge of ethics. Chidi points to the board and answers Plato. Tahani then visits and gives Eleanor a houseplant. When she leaves, Eleanor mocks her, calling her little act a con. Chidi reminds her that Tahani offered a nice gesture, so she should return the favor. Later, Michael encourages Chidi to try new hobbies in paradise since he was so focused on his research on Earth. Meanwhile, Eleanor visits Tahani to give her a basket of pears. However, Tahani shares that in Jianyu's culture, pears are bad luck, so she throws them away. Tahani then shares her plan to check in on their neighbors since helping others makes her feel like she belongs there. Hearing this makes Eleanor suspicious. That night, Eleanor reveals the note to Chidi, which she thinks Tahani sent. Chidi doubts this, but his companion thinks the woman wants everyone to think she's perfect. As she rants about her, the plant Tahani gave Eleanor suddenly wilts. Chidi believes the plant represents the women's friendship, so it wilts when Eleanor is mean to Tahani. Despite this, Eleanor plots to reveal that the woman is a fake. The next day, Eleanor asks for Tahani's story, hoping to uncover something. The other shares that she raised money for non-profit groups, so Eleanor wonders if she ever took some of the money. Tahani vehemently denies this. As they walk, Eleanor recalls when her boyfriend told her not to buy from a coffee shop after news spread of the owner's misbehavior. However, Eleanor disagreed since the shop was close to their apartment. Somewhere in the good place, Michael suggests that Chidi take in cartography and map out their land. However, Chidi fears exploring and once got lost on an escalator. Next, Michael suggests that Chidi become the neighborhood's journalist. Again, Chidi declines as he dislikes deadlines. That evening, Tahani and Eleanor have tea in her mansion. When the woman excuses herself, Eleanor starts snooping until she finds Tahani's diary. Meanwhile, Michael and Janet take Chidi to a welding workshop, but the man is scared of the equipment. Realizing that no other hobby fits him, Chidi decides to keep working on his manuscript. However, Michael admits that he's read his manuscript and it's too convoluted. This gives Chidi a stomachache. When Eleanor returns home, Chidi notices that she's hiding something, so she reveals Tahani's diary. She plans to compare her handwriting to the note and prove the woman is evil. This causes the houseplant to set itself ablaze. At his wit's end, Chidi insists that the note was a manifestation of Eleanor's guilt, like what's happening with the plant. He agrees that Tahani is condescending, but she did devote her life to helping people. As he walks away, Eleanor recalls when she brought her boyfriend tickets to the Coyotes game. But since the players had DUIs, she claimed that they couldn't support them anymore. She stressed that bad things were impossible to avoid. Her boyfriend argued that they should still try, but Eleanor stressed that it was difficult living like that. Thinking this, Eleanor confesses to Chidi that she's insecure around good people. Chidi also shares that he's questioning his career since Michael, who knows everything, couldn't understand his work. Eleanor argues that Michael doesn't know everything since he's unaware that she doesn't belong there. She encourages him to be proud of his work, so Chidi heads to Michael's office. He declares that he wants to continue working on his manuscript and asks Michael to be his advisor. Meanwhile, Eleanor sneaks back into Tahani's mansion to return her diary when she hears the woman crying. Concerned, she checks on Tahani, who mourns how she can't connect with her soulmate. Eleanor points out that they have an eternity together, so she promises that there'll be progress. The next morning, Chidi and Eleanor see the houseplant has grown flowers, signifying her friendship with Tahani blossoming. Later, Tahani, Michael, and Janet approach Eleanor to offer her the position of Michael's assistant. With no choice, she agrees. When she gets home, she finds another note telling her to meet tonight. That evening, Eleanor goes to the rendezvous and is surprised when Jianyu greets her. She confronts him about the notes and defends that though she doesn't belong there, she's trying to be good. Hearing this, Jianyu drops the act and claims he doesn't belong there either. He's avoided suspicion by not speaking since he got there, even to Michael. He reveals that his real name is Jason Mendoza, and he discovered that Eleanor didn't belong there when she drunkenly confessed to him during Tahani's welcome party. The following day, Michael asks Tahani to plan a grand opening for a residence restaurant. This excites the woman. Meanwhile, Jason shows Eleanor his room, where Tahani isn't allowed to enter. He shares that Janet helped him decorate the room, then wonders if she's single. Eleanor reminds him that Janet isn't human and that he's pretending to be Tahani's soulmate. She then goes to attend her class, sharing that Chidi is trying to teach her to be good. Still, Eleanor is glad that she can finally be herself around Jason. Thinking this, Jason recalls when he applied to be a DJ at the club, but the current DJ, Acid Cat, didn't think he had talent. Despite this, Acid Cat tasked him to pretend to be him and play his music while he attended other parties. In the good place, Tahani notices that Jianyu isn't invited to the restaurant's opening, so Michael explains that since Jianyu doesn't talk, he might be uncomfortable with the event. Meanwhile, Eleanor and Chidi hear music from Tahani's mansion and find Jason openly playing his mix as he was inspired to be himself. After cleaning up Jason's things, she tries to explain the truth to Chidi but stops when Tahani arrives. Tahani asks how Jianyu is, and he replies, "I'm cool." This surprises the woman, so she assumes that Eleanor and Chidi are helping Jianyu speak to her. She later shares this with Michael and insists that Jianyu be included in the grand opening. Meanwhile, Eleanor explains to Chidi that Jason is also a fraud, insisting that he must keep pretending to be Jianyu. Hearing this, Jason ponders about when he pretended to be Acid Cat. He hated how people cheered for him because they thought he was someone else, so he revealed his identity and played his own mix. Immediately, the crowd booed at him. At the opening of the good plates, the residents are delighted to be served their favorite meals from Earth. Given their mistaken identities, Jason gets tofu while Eleanor finds her plate empty. Confused, she calls Janet, who explains that according to their files, Eleanor's favorite meal was her hunger strike during a protest. Michael checks in on Tahani, who shares that Jianyu hasn't opened up to her. To get him to talk, Michael asks everyone to share their stories about their favorite meals. While someone else shares their story, Eleanor tells Jason to come up with a story about tofu, but he refuses to lie. Nervous, Eleanor talks to Chidi privately, panicking about how if Jason gets caught, she might get caught too. Michael then asks Jianyu to speak, and as a desperate move, Eleanor destroys the restaurant's cake. This act causes a sinkhole to appear in the middle of the restaurant. While everyone is distracted, Eleanor and Chidi check on Jason in his room, stressing that he can't let people know who he is. This reminds Jason of when Acid Cat sued him for breach of contract. He realized that he shouldn't have pretended to be someone else since it could cost him his dreams. With that, he threw a Molotov cocktail into Acid Cat's motorboat. In Michael's office, Tahani shares how the sinkhole might have traumatized Jianyu, and he'll never speak to her again. Michael assures her that soulmates sometimes take time to connect, so she has to be patient. He then blames himself for the sinkhole, so Tahani offers her help to keep the neighborhood together. Meanwhile, Eleanor worries that Jason will get them both thrown in the bad place. Chidi offers to teach Jason to be a good person to earn his place there. The man refuses, so Eleanor scolds him, reminding him that he didn't earn his place in heaven and that Chidi is risking himself by helping them. The next day, Jason finally joins their lessons. However, when he asks when football tryouts are, Chidi gets nervous. In contrast, Eleanor celebrates as, for the first time, she's the smartest kid in class. That evening, Tahani hears rumbling in the good plates, so she checks and finds the sinkhole widening, threatening the entire neighborhood.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.